So, Eric, you've had an interesting upbringing, growing up as the child of young hippies. Tell us a little bit more about yourself and your life's journey to where you are now.
Sure. Being the child of young hippies was certainly an interesting, different, and exciting childhood. Still part of who I am today. I think I may not have the long hair and the robes and live in an ashram anymore. I did a couple years in my early days, but I would consider myself a modern day hippie. I still hold on to all the belief systems that I was raised with as a young child, and that was instilled in me by my parents. So, but I was born in 1970 in Boston, Massachusetts, and my mother was a flower child. She was 17 years old when she had me, and she was into the free love movement, and I was one of the children following along with long hair and dancing at the festivals and starting to learn about meditation and starting to learn about eating healthy. We were vegetarian at the time and shopped in health food stores, the early ones at that time in Boston. And we were part of a community of spiritual people that followed a teacher from India and in that spiritual practice. So I'd say my upbringing was extremely unique, being raised in a typical Boston Irish Catholic neighborhood where that was not the norm. And most people were at church on Sunday, and we were not, and we were meeting with our group of people, talking about the things that inspired our group of people, which was all about love, spirituality, consciousness, and kind of our place in the greater cosmos and universe, and how we could take those beliefs and, as a family, live by them every day. And eventually, as a teenager and then young adult, and now owner of multiple businesses that I'm fortunate to be founded and co-founded in the natural industry, it's always been a part of me. So I'm very fortunate, very thankful to my mother, very thankful to my father, very thankful to the community that helped raise me.
Yeah. And you tell an interesting story how when you were young and your mother took you to Burger King once or maybe a few times, maybe it was a regular shtick of hers, that she would stand online and demand a meatless burger, and to your embarrassment, I imagine, as a young kid. And so I wonder, in hearing that story, I wonder, a lot of kids rebel from their parents. It's part of growing up. How did you not rebel, run off, and become a McDonald's owner or just a heavy-duty carnivore or anything, as opposed to where you're at, which is kind of a continuation of those values?
That's a great question. A couple answers for you there. So I did some of the rebellious stuff, just so you know, and I'll touch on that. But yes, we were young hippies. We were into love. We were into peace. Except we were also an activist type family. And back then, you didn't have the internet, and you didn't have the ability to rally a crowd all at once and go online and make a big statement about what you believe in. But we did it on an individual basis. So my mother raised us vegetarian, and as part of that movement, she was in a community of other friends of hers that wanted to make a statement with McDonald's and Burger King. And back in the early 70s, obviously there was no such thing as meatless Whoppers or veggie burgers on the menu. So they took it upon themselves. I guess it was their way to protest in a peaceful way. It was all about demanding change on the spot. So as a young family, my sisters and I, who, gosh, they must have been 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, and I'm 7, 8, 9. This is going on for years, by the way. This wasn't just a one-time thing. So for a good, it felt like 3 to 5 year period in my early days, we'd all go on a Sunday afternoon to Burger King or McDonald's, and the whole shtick was, as you said, we'd go in, we'd get to the front of the line, and my mother would say to the clerk, we'd want a meatless Whopper, and we'll pay you the same price. Oh, well, ma'am, we can't do that. We have to have meat in our Whoppers. And she'd make this entire case with the person at the counter who really didn't quite care and wasn't prepared to handle a family like that coming to the counter. An entire case about how we don't eat meat, and society doesn't have to be forced to eat meat, but you should serve all kinds of people that come into your restaurant. So all we're asking you to do is really simple. Tell the person behind you serving the meat just to not put the meat on the patty. And we'll take it with just all the vegetables on it. In fact, we'll take it with some extra onions and some extra tomatoes and some extra lettuce, and let's call it a veggie sandwich. And we did this all the time. And what would typically happen, I'd be turning bright red. My sisters didn't know what was going on. They'd be looking all around, and we had people behind us stomping their feet, complaining, growling, because they just wanted to get their Whopper and get out. And but looking back now, I'm happy she did that, because by showing us as young children that you can make a change in the world by action and by being proud of your beliefs and by being okay to be different, and not be embarrassed, but be, kind of in the know that this is the right way to conduct a business, and companies like McDonald's and Burger King should think about these things. Well, look, lo and behold, 15, 20 years later, there's veggie Whoppers, there's meatless Whoppers. There was a time when I went into Burger King, McDonald's in the past 20 years and saw those things on the menu. And I said to myself, wow, I was actually part of that 35 years ago when I was 7 years old. I was part of that change that caused that menu to have a healthier option without meat. So I can only thank her for having the guts to do that.
Yeah, so she was a visionary.
She was, but to your point about why didn't I go off and rebel in the world, I definitely did. I wasn't destined to be an activist myself. I wasn't destined to go live in an ashram or fly to India and not come back for 20 years until my pilgrimage was over. I was destined to see the whole experience that the world has to offer and be part of it. So when I went to college in Boston, I did eat meat. I tried everything actually that my mother most everything that my mother raised us not to want to do, because I wanted to experience both sides of the yin and yang. I wanted to experience both sides of the contrast. I wanted to see what it was like being in that vibration of someone that ate meat, of someone that went out and drank, of someone that went out and partied and had fun like the rest of the kids in college. I didn't want to just be that person I was as a child, because if I was just that in my mind, and I knew I had a long life ahead of me and my life's full of many chapters, I always would have just had one chapter, and it would have been the chapter of that kid that grew up and was always just like that. And there's nothing wrong with that for a lot of people. There's some of the best natural products companies founded in our industry were founded by hippies that were tried and true to their beliefs that they had when they were young teenagers. For me, it was all about going out in the world and experiencing business. I got to work in Wall Street for a couple of years, experiencing nightlife, going out and having fun and doing material things and being part of the mainstream consumer that watches TV and buys some of that stuff that you're brainwashed to buy. I did all that. I did it all for about 15 years until I did enough of it that I got to experience the contrast between the light and the dark, the good and the bad, the yin and the yang. That for me was my journey, and that's the journey I'm still on now. Now I've come back full circle in my young 40s, starting in my early 30s with the launch of my first company in the natural industry, but now I've got the full picture, and I'm halfway through my life, and I'm very fortunate. I've got the full picture of seeing what it's all like to be in all those different scenarios and all those different lifestyles, so I can appreciate so much more now someone that eats meat and someone that doesn't eat meat, someone that watches TV and buys the clothes they see on TV, and someone that's okay to dress the way they want to dress, someone that can make decisions on their own without being told what they have to buy all day and feel uncomfortable if they buy things that are different than what's promoted to them in the marketing media. So I'm very fortunate that my life story is a bit different, but I do thank my parents for raising us a bit different. And my mother once told me when I was a kid, all these things that we're teaching you, they may seem very strange and unorthodox now, and I know you get picked on or you're maybe embarrassed. Someday they're going to be cool. Someday the world is going to buy into these beliefs, because there's no choice. The world will have to buy into these beliefs, because capitalism and business in the early 70s could not have went on forever like that. The world would have imploded. The world would have been in World War III. Thank God for the age of Aquarius. Thank God for feminism. Thank God for women's rights. Thank God for people supporting all these beliefs, because without that hippie movement, I wouldn't be here right now talking the way I'm talking. Thank God there's enough of a support system of like-minded fellow business people right now that are around the world trying to make change. Not just me, there's other great people out there that are all trying to be part of this movement. But I saw a shirt in Whole Foods a couple years ago that I was just walking down the aisle, and it said, I was organic before organic was cool. And I bought the shirt, sent it to my mom, bought one for myself, and there it was. That's kind of the epitome of thanks. You were right. There it is in Whole Foods Market. You were organic before organic was cool, and that was definitely my upbringing.
Right, and those values have really immersed into the mainstream at this point in time, and they're just deeply embedded. So those values that were once out there are now norm.
Yeah.
So what do you think are some of the themes that drive you and inform you?
In business?
In business and in life.
Well, they're actually the same themes.
Yeah,
my themes are who I am. So I keep it real every day in my own life and the businesses that I'm involved in. My fundamental beliefs are all about universal consciousness. They're all about energy. They're all about conscious decisions. They're all about living a righteous life and doing good. They're all about giving back. They're all about helping others. They're all about putting products not only in your body but out in the world that are going to make a difference for everybody, not just the individual. So my personal beliefs are very tied to my business beliefs. In 2010, 2002, I co-founded a company called Steaz, which is a leading organic soft drink and energy drink and iced tea brand sold nationwide. And the fundamental beliefs that company was built on was triple bottom line business practices. And back in 2002, that was just a phrase that was just starting in the early 2000s to get known in businesses, mainly in kind of the natural products industry, the LOHAS movement, where businesses starting to talk about and founders starting to talk about doing business based on ethics, people, planet, profits that give back, not just about profits that line the shareholders' pockets. So this phrase, triple bottom line, became very popular in the early 2000s, and throughout the past 10 years, many other companies have founded themselves on those principles.
So if someone watching this doesn't know what that term means, triple bottom line, what is that?
It generally refers to focusing your business intent as a management team or the founding group on people, planet, and ethical profits. And by ethical profits, it means every one of a million things. But it's all about doing good with the bottom line. You've got to make money to stay in business. So don't get me wrong. Every business has to thrive and survive in order to keep growing and to keep supporting and giving back. So, but it's about, okay, at the end of the day, with the profits you're making, how are they being used? Are they just being used to line the shareholders' pockets, which is the old paradigm? It's the old way the world runs. It's all about the investors making their money at the expense of everything else. It's why you have child slave labor. It's why you have factory farming. That's horrific. It's why you have half the problems you have in the world's economy right now, and in pollution and in the environment, is because of businesses that run on that old way of thinking. So new way of thinking would be, if you're starting a McDonald's today, you're really thinking hard about, well, what happens to all that factory farming that I do with my animals, and what happens in the air, and what happens in the water stream, and what happens with the land, and you start thinking about all that stuff. And so there could be simple answers, like at Steaz, we decided to become carbon neutral after a couple of years in business. So we couldn't control the fact that we have to ship tea from Sri Lanka to here in the United States. We couldn't control the fact that our beverages have to go on 18-wheeler tractor trucks and use a ton of fossil fuel to get to Whole Foods Market or a natural food store. But what could we do with that information now that we knew we polluted and that we contributed to some negative parts of the environment? What we did is we bought carbon offsets. We started investing in wind farms, in dairy plants, and other kind of business models that were all about having excess power to then give back at either no charge to the city or the town around it, or charge for a very small amount, and use those monies in a good way to keep running their farms or their factories or their wind farms like that. So it became, for us, how do we find ways to offset, and basically got to a zero carbon impact, or net zero. And that was for us the accomplishment of being a triple bottom line business, and that was at my first company. And I got to learn a tremendous amount about how that all works, running a company that was built on those ethos. In my company since then, that's of course what we do. We're triple bottom line. That's a no-brainer now. Now we do way more good, and we try to do way more good. And, now there's organizations called B Corporation that are out there to really kind of dive into your company and help partner with you to make sure everything you're doing as a company, not just the way you ship your product one place to another and buying some offsets, but the whole environment, the whole culture of the business is around corporate social responsibility. So now it's popular to be corporate social responsible as a business, and still be triple bottom line. And then there's still so much more you can do besides just that. You can keep going now and keep bettering your business and keep showing the world that you can change, and it's okay and it's cool and it makes sense.
Right. So going back to that question about the themes that inform you and drive you, really what you're saying is that probably the most important theme is who you are as a person is the same thing as who you are as a business person, and they're fully integrated. So you care about your own ethos in life and your spiritual ethos, your awareness for environment, justice, plays itself on. You're always thinking, well, how can we make sure we're doing least harm?
If you look at the concept of, namaste, the divine in me honors the divine in you. If you look at the concept of we all are one energy, we all are many different souls experiencing a reality in a physical form for however long we're lucky enough to experience it. When you grasp the concept that all this is energy, the table, the bottles, the body, the clothes, it's just atoms that have chosen to vibrate at a certain rate of speed and then stop and experience what that's like to be a table and a bottle and a human. You start from the big picture, getting real excited about the fact that, well, first of all, there's just one life of many lives, and how good can I be in this life, and what's my legacy going to be when someday I'm not here, but I look back once I leave the body and I'm up in heaven or wherever you want to call where you go, and you reflect on what you did in that life, what good you gave in that life. That's what you're going to remember. You're going to be remembered by the good you put out. Our fundamental law here at this company, MetaBrand, is what you put out is what you get back. Right. It's as simple as that. So if you just if everybody could just, and many people do now, subscribe to the concept that it's all energy, well, why would I treat myself any different than I would treat you or our customers or the supply chain that we work with? It's all about us as a company and as a business being leaders in serving, serving our customers, serving our industry, serving the consumer demands the best way we can, because the more we serve, the more we're going to serve ourselves. And that's the way I look at the business models that I'm in now. And so, of course, that's way broader of a mindset than triple bottom line. Triple bottom line's great. The average mainstream entrepreneur right now, anywhere in the world, can get into a business and have pretty simple ways to be triple bottom line. But I'm about how do we take the entire microcosm and macrocosm of the business world and extend it out to the environment and then out of this earth and bring it all together and do that every day. And that's the fun part. Actually, it's a challenge every day, because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of explaining and understanding and sharing, but it's fun at the same time. I mean, what I do every day, I do for free. It's giving back, and it's serving myself.
Yeah, so it's really, in a way, you could say it's the Tao of business, or the quantum physics of business and doing business in a way.
And it's the quantum physics.
Yeah, and it's interesting also because you see a lot of business people with successful businesses maybe not making their money in the most integrity way with integrity, but then they give. So it's almost like they made their money, then they set up a philanthropic foundation or something where they do good.
Yeah.
It's like Andrew Carnegie and the robber barons made all their money, but then he built all these libraries. But why can't they do it all in the same way? It was beautiful that he built libraries.
Yep.
Not so beautiful what he did to make that money.
And I think some of those latter investments into philanthropic ventures, like the libraries and giving back, maybe have been their way as they got older in life, knowing their days were ticking, that they needed to have some positive legacy other than raping the earth and rigging the finances to create the economy we have right now, which a few hundred years ago the world families did get together and create the banking system we have now, which is completely insane and will only last so much longer. I think we all know that, the old way of doing business and banking. But maybe in their final days, they had to contribute something back to lead at least some legacy that they could be known by. For us, for the young generation now, the people that are in my community of fellow business owners, certainly the natural industries, the world that I live in, I'm very lucky that I get to be around tons of other young 20, 30, 40, young 50-year-olds that are starting companies that are all subscribing. Right now, our business is going to be built on day one, making money, doing good, and giving back with our dollars. We don't just focus on the money, we focus on the whole picture being a symbiotic relationship where everyone thrives. So for us, it's win-win-win. The environment will win, the customer will win, our shareholders will win. It's all about everybody winning. It's not win-win. Win-win is the old way. It's win-win-win right now. That's how we do everything at the businesses that I'm involved in. That's how we think.
So you have 3 businesses that you're involved in, is that correct?
Yeah.
What are those businesses?
So after I co-founded Steaz in the early 2000s, I went on to start another company called I Am Enlightened Nutrition. And we started that company 3 years ago. Actually, these are some of our products right here. We're a liquid herbal supplement line based in Ayurvedic and Chinese herbal medicine. We have a line of gem and flower elixirs. And these products are the kind of products you'd see in Whole Foods markets and spas and natural food stores. And there we would call high vibrational, highly efficacious products that use the best of science and nature, so herbs and botanicals and teas, with science of nutrition and very strong patented ingredients that we use in our formulas that help transform, in a matter of, say, 20 minutes, the experience of our customer. So if you want to feel a little more energy in your life, you may take our I Am Energized. And the whole concept with the I Am is, and I didn't make up the phrase I am. I'm actually probably one of many companies that are now using those very powerful words that have been known for thousands of years all across the globe. We're using the power of positive intent. And that's where it starts. So the company I Am is all about the consumer. They get maybe 4 or 5 feet from the Whole Foods cash register, and they see this bottle sitting there, I am energized. And they start thinking to themselves, well, I know those words from somewhere. I am that I am. The Moses Code. I am, therefore I am. There's so many great I ams. But they start thinking about they are going to be more energized, and then they look at the formula and they look at the ingredients, and in 20 minutes after consuming the beverage, they're feeling it. And we use the best of, as I said, from plants and nature and botanicals to infuse in our products high quality ingredients that do give the desired effect. So from the aromatherapy sprays to the flower elixirs, it's basically a transformative brand.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then then you have a third company.
And that's the office we're sitting in now,
Right.
is MetaBrand, which is really, MetaBrand's a unique business model. It's a one-stop, and I don't say that cheesy or corny, it's a one-stop shop for an entrepreneur that wants to launch a food, a beverage, a supplement, or a personal care line that's natural or organic to come to once they have their idea. Their friends and family, they got around the table, they've been talking about it for years. There's a great idea. Maybe it was a family recipe passed down for some drink that cures cancer, or some amazing trend that the entrepreneur discovered and wants to put out in the market to make a difference in the world. Those entrepreneurs in the past would have to go through the whole role of figuring it out themselves, how to formulate their product, how to handle the supply chain setup and operations negotiation, how to go to production run, how to create the branding, the logo, the website, the packaging, the copy, the point of sale materials needed to support their brand at retail and build a business off of, how to create a brand, as well as from the advisory standpoint. Most young entrepreneurs that come to us, they haven't been in the industry before. So there's so much that they don't know, so many mistakes that are waiting for them, that I've made so many of them myself, as well as the rest of our advisory team, which is 35 of us now at the company. We bring the very best in expertise and consultation to our young brands. So we kind of serve them with the full, 360-degree picture of how they can get their product to shelf, and we hold their hand all along the way. And we're sitting right now in an office that has a formulation lab, a marketing department, our advisory group, and our operations team, all under one roof. So when our clients come here, they truly co-create with us. And that's our company's tagline, co-creating a better future. Because for us, it's all about, we're not just here to charge you a fee, we're here to co-create with you your dream. And so for us, we get really involved passionately, and we share our DNA with the DNA of the brand owner. And together, 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2. For us, 1 + 1 = 11. That's a powerful prime number. We're all about powerfully coming together and helping these young entrepreneurs get to market safer, smarter, and faster.
Right. So it's really like an incubation lab, and
we're incubating the brands of tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's what we say every day. We are so lucky to incubate the brands of tomorrow.
But the brands with a difference, or
That's
a conscious approach.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, you only seek us out if you have a wellness type or natural organic product in mind, or GMO-free, something that has an integrous, base.
And your companies are all doing very well.
Yeah.
Right. So what you're showing by modeling is that you can be someone instilled with a ethic, an ethos, a spiritual ethos, and be successful, and they're not exclusive.
Totally correct.
So it's so important for people to understand that now.
Yeah.
And any budding young entrepreneur, any person, just to understand, not even just a budding young entrepreneur, not even an entrepreneur, just that it gives people hope and optimism, and understands there's so much good going on.
Sure. Yeah, when you walk in the door here, most entrepreneurs aren't expecting this much free information on how they can maybe rethink about how they set up their business or conduct their business. They generally think they're coming to us to pay for a service, a specific service, which we do. But we try as best we can to also educate them in the big picture that's out there in terms of how to run a company. And there's not many people doing that, sharing that kind of insight and input.
Yeah.
And we're excited about it. We love it. And we see the change we make. We see when we start talking about these ideas, from triple bottom line to corporate social responsibility to all these kind of better business practices, we see the light bulb go off constantly in these entrepreneurs' eyes. They get excited.
Yeah.
They may have thought they had an idea that could change the world, but then now they realize they have a company that could change the world, not just a product, a company. And that's what we're trying to create here is, we're trying not to create products because products don't stand the test of time. We're trying to create brands, great brands here, and architect them with our young entrepreneurs from the outset to be big brands that make a difference in the world. And when they start thinking like that, everything starts changing from the idea they had that was just a bottle of something to a company of some substance.
Yeah. And it's very enlightening for a person then, because they can understand that they can be a more full human being. They can be more integrated, more authentic. They don't have to have this personal belief, but they have to create some junky product because that's the way it's going to make lots of money.
Yeah, we see, with the typical entrepreneur in America, at least the kind that we see come into the food, beverage, supplement space, they're either in it because it's a marketing idea and a marketing angle for them, and they came into it because they think it's going to be the next big thing that's going to make them a ton of money, and there's nothing wrong with that, or they come into it because they really have a philosophy grounded in a belief that their product, their brand, their company is going to make a difference in the world. I mean, We much rather deal with people that come in with philosophy, and because they have such passion. It's like it's burning, and that's what we look for. We have so much passion, but we still try to help everyone that's marketing a concept maybe think how much bigger their marketing story could be if they incorporated some values and some beliefs that were more about everybody, not just themselves getting rich off their idea. That's a different thinking. And we've been, thank God, successful in converting some of those marketing folks that come in here with an idea into more of a passionate business model.
Yeah, well, that's great.
Yeah. That's our job. That's what we do. You know, we do it for free. It's fun.
Yeah. Well, I think people just pick up on your enthusiasm and passion, and that by itself will get people excited and make them say, yeah, I can do that too.
Well, the enthusiasm and passion comes from deep within. It's what I love to do.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I say every day I come in, I would do exactly what I did if I wasn't getting paid, because I'm having the most fun I could ever dream to have. And I appreciate every moment that I have that I'm in this story right now in my life.
Yeah. So you have a saying on your website and also posted on one of the walls here in your offices, and it says, if you believe you will succeed, you will achieve. So what does that mean to you?
It all stems from belief. So every time that you want to achieve something or succeed at something, there has to be a burning belief first that you are going to be able to do that. If you are full of doubt, but you want to start a company, but you're full of doubt that the product's going to be accepted, it's going to work, you're going to have the money to fund the company, the more you don't believe 111% in every ounce of your body's DNA that idea, that dream is going to be reality, it'll never succeed. You'll never achieve. The more you get yourself in a mindset, however you get there, there's plenty of ways to get there, but the more you get yourself in the mindset that there is a fundamental burning fact that belief is going to become a reality that's going to create your new world that you're going to live in, once you get that down pat and that belief is done, you checked it out, you can now go take the action to create the company or create the product or create the brand or create the dream or whatever the goal is. And it starts from the belief, though. And so that's where I'm always coming from, is the belief strong enough? When we sit here and we guide our young business owners that come into us, it's pretty quick that you could sum up if someone really believes their idea is going to work, or they're just kind of like going through the motions because their friends and family said, hey, it's a good idea, go throw some money into it and test it. And however you get there, at the end of the day, and I've seen many successful entrepreneurs have their exits, have their liquidity events, have their biggest successes in my 15 years in the industry. They all had that burning belief in common when I met them early on, and I watched that belief drive them through the entire process and life cycle of creating a great company and a great brand, and then have that dream that they wanted to be achieved. So I know it works. Unfortunately, not on my first show, and I'm not on my first business deal where I've seen partners have success, and it seems to always be the case is that when that belief is strong enough, everything seems to synchronistically fall in place over time.
Yeah, so really you're talking about like the power of intention, and which shows that the power of intention isn't some new age idea, but it really is a truism that drives people forward and can help them succeed or wherever they want to go.
Yep. That intention, and that's like the next step after the belief. So the belief can be all great and burning and it's unbelievable and you know it's going to work, but if you don't then take some intention, you don't intend to do that dream or intend to take the next steps, then you're never going to have anything happen either. It's a whole process that you have to go through as an entrepreneur in a business model to have the ultimate success happen. And there's many steps along that way. In fact, there's a great teacher that I've been fortunate enough to learn from the past couple of years called Bashar, and he teaches the 7 steps to manifestation, and they're amazing, and they've been talked about for thousands of years too, but he puts it in a very succinct way that's very understandable. So part of what I do, in my off time, when I'm not in the office, is I study and I learn and I explore and I expand as much as I can consciousness and teachings that have been around and theories that have been around for thousands of years by many teachers and many gurus and many masters and many enlightened beings, because there's just a wealth of phenomenal information that has been cultivated for thousands of years, if not longer, that's available to any young entrepreneur that wants to start and create a company or just be on their spiritual path with a little extra excitement. That's where I'm at. So I don't have a difference really between my business and my personal life. It's all the same. The more I expand my consciousness, the more I learn, the more I practice in my personal life, the more the business thrives. The more I bring and share between both, it's all becomes one great story, and it all becomes one chapter.
Yeah, and if you understand, believe, know about universal energy or the quantum physics of business, then the more integrated and authentic you are, then the more that flow happens, and the more you're connected to universal source, universal energy,
Sure.
and it makes it more real. It's
Yeah.
like the universe guides us to where we need to go,
Yep.
not necessarily what we want, but where it needs to go. And the more you're in alignment with that, right? So,
Yep.
Yeah.
We love seeing the authentic entrepreneurs that come in.
Yeah.
You know, that it's not just a ploy. You know, but by default, because we only serve natural and organic brands here, that's the kind of, we fortunately only get generally those kind of entrepreneurs coming to us.
right.
Yeah. To work with. Yeah.
So those 7 keys that you mentioned, 7 steps manifesting your dream. You've in a talk you gave, you mentioned them as vision, desire, belief, acceptance, intention, action, and allowance. So
Yeah.
those are what you were
Yes,
talking about.
yes.
And you've seen these directly. I mean, not only have you studied them, but you've applied them in your own
Oh,
life.
yeah.
And-
I mean, that's the great thing. I mean, you know, it's really cool when you, well, first of all, I'm lucky. I'm 43 years old, and I was brought up in this type of belief system. These kind of teachings were part of my early years. I was initiated into meditation at 13 years old, and I lived in an ashram for a couple of years. And, you know, so at this stage of my life, learning stuff like you just mentioned, you know, 7 core fundamental, you know, words or belief systems that will create a successful outcome, have been innate to me my whole life. So every business I've been involved in, and I had other businesses before the 3 natural product brands that I was involved in, everything I've ever been involved in, I operated that way without knowing that those were the 7 steps, without hearing, you know, someone like Bashar or other great teachers out there say them so eloquently. I had already known them innately, and that was just part of me, and that's why I've always operated, you know, in business models where fortunately the outcome's been successful. So there's always trials and tribulations. You know, every business model is a roller coaster ride. Every early year or two, every beverage or food or entrepreneur in the supplement industry that I know kind of lives on the verge of bankruptcy every day, but you become okay with that. You become okay with the roller coaster ride, because if your fundamental belief is that there's no way this is not going to work, the roller coaster becomes fun, the dips. You know, you look back, you get to the high point, you look back, wow, last month was really terrible. I almost went out of business. But this month, oh my God, look at the business. And you balance it up. The trick is to keep going up. And that's what I've done my whole career, is to keep going up, to keep looking back, to take inventory of the lessons I've learned, the mistakes I've made. And I've made plenty of mistakes, embarrassing mistakes, stupid mistakes, some mistakes because of ego. And the trick is, and I think the trick is, you know, in life, and not just in business, is to look at your mistakes and be able to change.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing that's constant, is that change is always happening. And in business, you've got to change to survive. That's the fundamental theory of all businesses. You better change and adapt when times get interesting or when trends get going. And you better adapt, else you're not going to survive.
Yeah. So Eric, it sounds like a really deep-rooted spiritual ethos has been part of your life and part of your business worldview and your business practices. Do you think that spiritual ethos has a place for any business and can help a business succeed and be in the marketplace?
Yes. It's as simple as when the customer walks in the door or calls on the phone or emails in, how can you best serve that customer? Because serving them is serving you, which is serving the company. So if service becomes the fundamental principle and the only principle that you really get how to do properly, because again, when you're serving the customer and you're following the belief of namaste, that customer is you. So you would never treat that customer in any part of that conversation or negotiation or sale, you would never treat them any less than you treat yourself. Mm-hmm. So if you do just that every day and you're not triple bottom line, you're not corporate responsible, and you're not doing all these other things that people like us do, that's okay. If you just treat that customer the way you want to be treated, you'll see a difference right there. It's when you look at the customer as just a ticket, as just a way to suck money, as just, as just a non-human. That's when the business doesn't succeed, or that's when it's a business that's not built, to have the kind of growth that we're seeing, or other companies that we're involved in are seeing.
Yes, that's very well put and very pragmatic, actually, because you're saying a spiritual ethos doesn't mean having to have a picture of your guru or Baba Ram Dass or whoever on the walls as much as just by living by the golden rule and having that as your everyday approach to doing business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all about serving.
Yeah. And I always enjoy doing business personally with anyone who treats me as a human being and treats me nice.
And then you come back. Even if the service,
just a good vibe.
If the service and quality maybe wasn't up to par with what the customer expected, but you served them in a manner that was integrous and authentic, and you treated them like you would treat yourself, they'll often let it slide. They'll let a mistake on an order, or they'll let something slide. But it's when you don't have that approach and you're arrogant and cocky and your business is about ego, which unfortunately a lot of business does run like that, the customer then fights back when they get not served properly or they don't get something that they expected when they bought the product. So we see this time and time again, serving others, serving yourself. What you put out is what you get back, and holding that intention in mind is the easiest way to conduct business, along with the principle of just, and this is mine and it's a lot of other people's as well, is that every day as a business owner or as a manager in a company, if you can just find a way as much as possible throughout the day to live in a state of gratitude and appreciation in every moment. So when a bad thing happens or a bad call comes in or something goes wrong, which is just inevitable, that's business is like a human being. There's shit that happens every day. But appreciating that in the stuff that's happening that's not going right, most likely soon after there'll be a positive outcome. And just being appreciative that the stuff's going on and the process is unfolding, because that's the way it's supposed to happen. And the more you appreciate, even in the tough times, the quicker you'll get out of those tough times and you'll see the good times. And that's how I operate my businesses. It's always about appreciation.
Yeah.
I'm thanking the Lord and the universe and God that I'm sitting here right now. This is, what else would I want to do on a Sunday than this?
Yeah, yeah. And do you think business has the ability to drive awareness and transformation?
The ones that subscribe to kind of theories that I'm talking about and that other great entrepreneurs have been bold enough to speak about, sure. I don't see how you look at 100 years from now and not see every business like this, because there will be no more business if we keep up the way the old way was. We'll deplete all the natural resources. There'll be no more forests to cut down. There'll be no more oil to suck out. There'll be no more water that's free and readily available. This whole world will not survive another 50 to 75 years if people don't change now like us. I mean, it's the best theorists right now in the world that are hired by multi-billion-dollar national corporations are all saying the same thing. This can only go along 10, 20, 30 more years before our grandkids will not have free water, before the airs are not just completely polluted, before all the Amazons cut down. Oh, then what? Then what? So you got to think like this now. You have to. Thank God more people are thinking like this now, because there'll be no more land and no more earth for our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren. So we love being part of the change. We love being bold. We love speaking out loud. We love saying crazy things. It's cool.
Yeah.
Because we know we're doing the right thing.
Yeah. And it's a growing segment that's happening. I've read that, like it's been called, this segment's been called the conscious consumer or the values-driven consumer, and I've read estimates as high as like 30% of the marketplace has been identified in this way. Do you agree with that number, or do you?
I don't know the statistic. Again, I'm a little sheltered and bubbled because the world that we serve and sell into is all consumers.
100%, yeah.
You walk into a natural food store, you walk into a Whole Foods market, you're voting with your dollar. So we're capturing that audience. The trick for us is going to be helping our young brands that we're creating, helping brands like our I Am products and Steaz and other brands that I co-founded, helping them to get out into the mainstream eventually. Walmart, 7-Eleven, big type of mainstream food, drug, and mass outlets, and at that point seeing, are those consumers ready to vote with their dollar? Will they pay, a 20% premium for an organic beverage versus Coca-Cola? Will they pay, a premium for a healthier line of, functional herbs like I Am versus buying, 5-hour energy shot, which is full of synthetic caffeine and synthetic colors and ingredients? Will they? I think they will. I think it's just a matter of time before everybody does and everybody subscribes to that, because the old way can't go on forever. It can't.
Yeah, and so what do you say to companies that put their own interests, if you had the ability to say something, companies that put their own interests and profits first, and in the process are hurting the earth, individuals, cultures all around the world?
I'd say, why? Why? Why are you a multi-billion-dollar company and you actually have to use slave labor and you somehow don't care about that? You actually are cutting down rainforests that give life to the earth and to your own children, and you don't care about that? You actually are supporting, a completely fraudulent medical system that keeps you addicted to drugs, and you own the pharmaceutical company and you can make a change and a difference, and you're already a billionaire. Why? When does enough become enough for the billionaire owners that own most of the world's companies, the 10 or 20 or 30 families, which it's not a joke, it's a fact, that own most of the different businesses in the world, whether it's electric, utilities, gas, power, food, you name it, media, pharmaceutical, medical, any industry. You could kind of tie all the dots together if you go deep into the charters of who owns the companies, and it's the same families in the most part, and there's a group of them that run the world. And I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist right now, but it's the facts. It's easily provable. When do they make enough money, because they have so much now, that their great-grandchildren are set for life? When does it finally become enough that they say, you know what, I'm going to stop raping the earth. I'm going to stop killing 1 million cattle a day so people can eat meat. I'm going to stop doing that. Like, when does it become, that's the part I don't get.
Yeah.
Like, when is enough enough? The Earth's had enough. The Earth's showing us it's had enough. Look at global warming. It's had enough. People have had enough. That's why Whole Foods stock is going through the roof, and other stocks of other supermarkets are not, that support those kind of businesses. So, you know, I love being a change agent. I love the fact that we can get out there, the little guy, the little David and Goliath, and speak like this, because, you know, I don't have that kind of money that my grandchildren are set for life, but I'm going to make a difference now, and I'm going to show other businesses that you can make a difference, and hopefully 10, 20, 30 years, this will be the way most businesses are thinking. And those old families and those old people that run these boards and run these companies won't be around anymore, because they'll die off, and it'll be a young generation. It'll be the age of Aquarius. It'll be the hippies that are, you know, the hippie children like me that were raised like this. That'll be who's in government. You're already starting to see it in government now.
Sure.
That'll be who proliferates the world. I mean, you know, 8 out of 10 people in America right now believe in extraterrestrial life. They believe in that. It'll soon be, in just a matter of another decade or two, when my kids are old enough and they're having their kids, everybody's going to believe and subscribe to the theory that the entire cosmos we're in is full of life. It's just going to take that first rock that we got from the moon or off of Mars to show that there's microbes in it, and that'll probably be the way it starts. And then everybody's paradigm will shift, just like the world was always flat up until a few hundred years ago, and then overnight we realized we were round. And just in a matter of one generation, a matter of, you know, a decade, the entire world changed its belief system that we weren't sitting on a flat bed of sea. And that's going to happen soon. And when those things start happening, by the way, too, although it has nothing to do with business, that'll also accelerate the change in companies. Because you can't keep, as these multinational corporations keep shoving things down your throat that are not good for you and the environment, you can't keep that up for long when the secret's out that there's free energy available throughout the universe, that there's life available that's far more advanced than us that's visited here before. You can't keep that stuff under wraps. It'll be public in a matter of decades. And, you know, you're starting to see it happen now.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just like you talk about your childhood and how on the cutting edge you're really out there is not the right word, how your parents were, how very different they were than everyone. And now that, as we're talking about, that has immersed itself into the mainstream. So a question along that line is that, you know, some people talk, as we see this exponential growth and that those values immerse in the mainstream, and some people talk about a tipping point where a certain percentage reach a higher level of thinking, consciousness, capabilities, and understanding, and that when this tipping point occurs, a profound transformational shift will occur. Would you say that you subscribe to such an idea?
100%. That's what I just said. It's when the Earth was understood that it was not flat. That was a major tipping point.
Right.
And you could go back throughout history and you could have major tipping points, big changes in consciousness that only took a matter of, you know, a couple years to circulate the Earth. Well, now, thank God for the internet. That is a major tipping point. The fact that a young student in Africa who never had a computer before can get his or her first computer and log on and all of a sudden talk to a fellow student in Los Angeles and communicate and share. The fact that we now have one global consciousness, that everybody can be connected in a matter of seconds, that's the beginning of the next tipping point. It's here, really, but the tipping point is understanding that the phone you hold in your hand, the phone that you can literally, with one press of a button, light speed, have a conversation with somebody in China, the other side of the world, that alone is the beginning of the technological revolution meeting spirituality. Because that is the first step in well, I get a little deep now, but I won't go too deep. It's the first step in telepathy. It's the first step in a consciousness that's shared between individuals. You can look at it in the sea. You see a school of sardines, 1 million sardines deep, all in a perfect formation. One turns, the whole school turns. You see, you know, the birds in the sky all flying in a flock. One turns, they all turn. You see butterflies that wake up out of their cocoon and know exactly where to fly 1,000 miles over the sea to land and then hatch their babies. How would they know that unless they were connected to some greater consciousness that species was all tapped into? The problem with the human species is we forgot that. You know, every other species on Earth knows that. How do you think a baby tiger, when it's born, knows right away to go to its mother and nurse? It knows right away. No one taught it that. And then the mother teaches it to kill and eat meat. And then the mother teaches it that. But right away it knows what to do. How does it know what to do? You know, that's the animal kingdom, the plant kingdom, they all have their own consciousness that they share. Humans do too. And thank God now the internet, science meets spirituality. This is the tipping point. It is all here. You have some leading physicists, leading scientists, leading mathematicians and theorists that through their study have come to the conclusion through quantum physics by seeing that you could change the way particles float down a tube in a laboratory setting, and by observing or not observing that, they'll have a different outcome. That is factual proof that the quantum universe is alive and well and has created everything that we're sitting here in right now experiencing. So we're like right at that tipping point, because that cell phone, that Apple, that iPhone, that whatever that is you're holding, you could talk to somebody on the other side of Earth. It's only a matter of time, because we're understanding, wow, you could do that? What happens when that little chip goes in your brain in a couple of years? Well, then you'll be able to do it without holding something in your hand. That is the beginning of where we're going. And where we're going is a technological revolution that is just going to be beyond what we've even dreamed of, because we'll be in that consciousness in 100 years. Wait till everybody's driving around free energy devices, driving around in cars that can work off water or hydrogen or electricity or sun. I mean, when I was 7 years old, my parents, my dad used to subscribe to Popular Mechanics magazine, and he ordered solar panels for our roof. Like these huge 3 panels came. The neighbors thought we were insane. They were like not understanding what we were hanging up on our roof one day. But I remember the gas bill the next month, and the electric bill, I'm sorry, when my dad showed me, it was down 30%. Well, now solar panels are all around the world. I mean, it's become norm. These are the tipping points that are happening every day now, but it's speeding up.
Oh,
it's speeding up. It doesn't take 10 years for solar panels to get cool. Mm-hmm. It takes one free energy device on the internet that can be verified and proven out in a peer-reviewed study. And when that happens, and that information's public, and it's not held captive, that alone is going to change the world massively overnight. So we're going to see, my predictions, we're going to see a ton of great tipping points. They're going to be coming up in just a matter of 5 or 10 years. You're going to see tipping points the next 100 years just all the time, until it eventually becomes the norm, that this is how business is.
Oh, absolutely. It's really, really what we're seeing, this open future, this open revolution where ideas flow, things move, and without the walls and barriers that at one time ideas couldn't move. So, through the internet, through minds connecting, through consciousness, and that's where, things are really, and I think that is really the hope of the future, and the more people that understand it. I think younger people, the millennials, they whether cognitively, intellectually, or just innately, they do catch that, and so that is really the greatest thing.
We all share one earth.
Yeah.
We're all humans. Yeah. We're not different.
Yeah.
And if everyone just got that, and a lot of people do get that now, once you get that, there should be no wars over religion. That's absurd. It doesn't even make sense.
Over anything. Yeah.
Should be no wars over anything, because if you treat others the way you want to treat yourself, if you live your life honoring others, why would you ever kill somebody because of their religious beliefs? Mm-hmm. Bizarre.
Yeah.
But that's the old way of thinking. See, to me, I'm only 43. I think that's completely insanity to think like that. But there's people that still think like that, obviously, because it's going on right now in the Middle East. But it's only going to take another generation or two more, and everybody will have to think that we are all one world.
Right.
And there'll be a tipping point, most likely, I predict, that'll make that happen. Mm-hmm. Whether it comes from up there or comes from in here, there'll be something shown to the world that gets everyone, even the naysayers at that point, to subscribe to that holy crap, really, we're all the same thing.
Yeah. So what do you think an individual can do on a singular level in order to affect positive change and transformation?
Be the change you wish to seek. Be the change. Just be what you want the reflection of everybody else to be. Be it first. When you stand in front of the mirror doesn't smile first. You have to smile for the mirror to smile back at you. The mirror doesn't smile where you're sitting there looking at it, doubting and thinking the old ways. And you be the change first, then everything out in your life around you starts in the concentric circles of your family, your friends, your business, and then the people that touch the business. It'll go out in concentric circles, farther and farther, like a ripple in the water when you throw a rock of positivity. Everything will start to ripple out that way, so you got to be the change first.
Yeah.
But it's not easy.
Yeah.
It's not easy for everybody to subscribe to these kind of things.
Yeah, and the more models we have, role models, the better. So are there people who do you think are the people that can be looked to for inspiration?
Wow, there's a lot of great teachers, a lot of great gurus, a lot of great people in the world that are inspirational. I don't even know where to start with that one. I have my own teachers, but I certainly think of people like Deepak Chopra, Wayne Dyer, Marianne Williamson, Dr. David Hawkins, Michael Beckwith have done a phenomenal job in mainstream, U.S. North American society of opening up the minds of the average person to these kind of positive thinkings and how to take action in your life. I think it starts there. You see someone speak and they're talking about positive change. People like Tony Robbins. Back in the 90s, was one of the first kind of mainstream people out there selling a 30-day course for taking positive action. And he was pretty mainstream with that message, but it resonated and it worked. It worked for the Bubba. It worked for the person, that never heard about these things before, but they bought that 30-day, self-motivation kit and they got motivated and made a change. And, and like I said, there's great masters and great teachers from all around the world. I was lucky to be brought up in a house that, followed a lot of the Eastern spirituality, some of the Maharajis that came out of India and Tibet that were teaching practices of spirituality that have been around for thousands of years. The Bhagavad Gita, the Vedic texts. There's just a wealth of phenomenal information that's out there that's just as timely today on how to live your life from the inside out than it was 5,000 years ago when it was written. Just as timely today, the message. How do they know that 5,000 years ago? They knew it because it's truth. When you hear truth, it doesn't take a lot of fighting internally to subscribe over a matter of a short period of time to wanting to keep seeking out that truth. Because like the body works, at least I believe, that once you hear the truth, fundamentally you hear something that resonates in the core vibrational sense of your entire being, you want more of that. It's like a drug. It's like the love drug. When you hear more of that and feel it, you want to surround yourself with that. And that's what keeps elevating people to be more spiritual, to take up yoga, to eat better, to give back, to do good in business. It's being aligned with truth. It's being aligned with the light. It's not being aligned with the darkness. It's not being aligned with the old way. Change is constant, and you got to keep changing. And I've had a lot of great teachers, thankfully. And with the internet now, anybody can, listening to this interview, can go online and find people like Bashar and Cryon and Ram Dass. Go to the Omega Institute. Go to the Integrated School of Nutrition in New York City. Start to learn about businesses that will help you help yourself. It doesn't have to be that you want to go in business, just be a better person.
Yeah. So, and then it just made me think also what you had said before about one other person that people can look to for inspiration is that person in the mirror.
That's it.
Yeah.
That is the only person.
Uh-huh.
You are the only person. Everyone else on earth is you too.
Yeah.
So you change first, and the whole reality you live in changes in time.
Right.
It's all a reflective mirror back in yourself. Even when you're having the worst day and a negative day. Well, what do you think in your head when you wake up in the morning when that day just sucks? By the end of the day, you're trying to take inventory. Why does my day suck? How'd you wake up? Did you meditate? Did you do some yoga? Did you eat clean? Did you give thanks to God that you got to wake up in your body again and you got to live a day again on this earth? Do you realize and subscribe to the theory that actually this is the heaven that they talk about? It's being alive. It's not a heaven that you go to when you die. This is being alive in a human body. You subscribe to the fact that you're a spiritual being or a soul having a human experience in a physical body. If you really believe that, and many, many religions around the world have said it more eloquently than that, but have said that same message. Every day you wake up, this is heaven. Because where do you think you are when you're sleeping for 8 hours? Does anybody really talk about where you are in the middle of the night between 2 and 4 in the morning when you're having your REM thing going on? Why do you do that? Where do you go? How can you wake up in the morning within a matter of seconds? You have no memory except a couple crazy psychedelic hallucinogenic visions of what you were doing? Or was that really what you really are? And when you wake up and you're alive and awake in a physical body, doing what we all do for 12, 13, 14 hours, that's the heaven. Because you can't do a lot of things that you do in physical form when you're in your sleep state, or when you are in your sleep state with your consciousness. You can't make babies. You can't start a company. You can't hold hands with your child. You can't do that there, but you can do it here. So the thing is, I think, where we're all going, and I think it's a matter of 50, 7,500 years, we're all going to think like that. That there's no separation between being awake and being asleep. You're an energy that has consciousness, that's always had consciousness, that's experiencing this reality as it chooses to.
Right. So speaking about where we could be going, how do you envision a world in which there's an increased awareness of evolved thinking and consciousness and action, and how do you think it would transform the structures and systems of our society, medicine, education, business, food, media? So what do you think?
Well, so what I'm trying to do through my businesses that I'm involved in, and through the businesses that we're helping co-create for young entrepreneurs, I'm trying to bring this thinking to the table. At the boardroom table, at the business meeting table, at the table with the buyers that buy our products, and then ultimately at the table with the consumers. Because, you know, look, you could have 1 million bottles in the market of a drink, because I'm in the drink industry mainly. And you could put whatever you want in those bottles, whatever kind of messaging. So why not start to put messaging that's positive, like, I am peace, I am love. Maybe put some symbols in the packaging, like the Om symbol. Maybe put a heart. You have a little heart right there. Put messaging, put theory, put mantras, put positivity out as a business owner, and in little ways. And you'll start to see it make its way all around the world. Because if you have millions of bottles out there talking about organic, or GMO-free, or no chemicals, enough consumers will encounter that for the first time, and if they like the product and enjoy it, they'll buy into the brand. If they buy into the brand, they'll become a brand evangelist. You know, that they'd be telling their friends and family and their bloggers and their Twitter accounts and everybody they're involved in online and in the social universe, they'd be telling about this great product they found and how it made a difference. They'll feel good about it. So if you can make people feel good and give them some soft education as well, some enlightened thinking on that their decision, their dollar bought something from a company that has these kind of thinkings, and you go on the company's website and maybe you learn something about these thinkings more, and then you go out and seek your spiritual practice. Maybe you decide that, you know, you're not just going to go to church or temple every weekend. You're going to do that, but you're going to start taking up yoga. Yoga seems like a very safe way for the mainstream average American to get into this realm of discussion. Because through the yoga practice, you connect into yourself, you realize you're part of the greater good of the cosmos, you realize what your place is kind of in society, and the decisions that you make, you know, are very important, just like with yoga practice, and you practice. And I think through things like that, and things like meditation, and things like kirtan, which is call and response chanting, which is another practice that comes from India, the more, you know, these things are available now and they're popular in America. You know, the more people keep subscribing to those things and buying those kind of magazines and following that kind of media, the better. Because it will only take a matter of time before all those people have kids, and those people have kids, and if they're brought up in an environment, in a household like I was brought up in, so I'm living proof of it, they'll become that. And they won't want to start companies based on the old way of thinking. They'll only know the new way of thinking. So my thinking that I have from my companies, it's only the new way of thinking. I was never shown the old way of thinking. And the new way of thinking works. Because I'm sitting here as a living testament that this kind of thinking actually does work. And you can build a multi-million-dollar organization with this way of thinking.
Yeah.
It's a fact.
That's absolutely, you're absolutely right. So as we get towards the end of the interview, I have 4 questions to ask you that are from a theme I've been working with called New Mind for the New World, which in a way, since it's a lot of what you've been saying, it's kind of a recap of what you've been saying, because the opposite of new mind for the new world is the old mind for that old world. So here are the questions. Question 1, where are we today in that spectrum of old world for old mind, new world, new mind?
That's great. So that's a great question. So Dr. David Hawkins, who's passed away, was a phenomenal enlightened being, and he calibrated a map of consciousness from 0 to 1,000, showing kind of where society or a business, Walmart for example, you can map that with kinesiology and see where it vibrates on the scale. So over the level 200 is integrous. It's an integrous. So you can take a business and ask a certain amount of questions and through this method of practice, figure out where it's vibrating at. And so everything's vibration. And so, you know, I think that you'll see a tremendous amount of more businesses that are trying to be one from integrity versus non-integrity, being the new way that people conduct their business and their lives in the future. And it's going to change the world. I mean, like we said before, there's very big industries run by very big families. And when some of those families either die off or decide through their children to subscribe to this kind of thinking, where their business vibrates, because look, a business is a living being. I mean, it is according to the IRS. Just like us, it has a social security number, it's a tax ID number. Businesses will evolve the way humans are evolving. Humans are evolving more spiritual. Businesses will follow. That's the only way it could be. It can't be any other way.
Yeah. And how did you get out of that, or maybe you never were in it, but how did you get out of where we are, of that old world, old mind for the old world?
Great question. So like I said, I lived my first 25 years, the first chapter, 15 of them, kind of in a very spiritual setting. The next 10 to 15, you know, call it college to 30s, young 30s, living in the real world, still studying all the things I love to study, spirituality, quantum physics, metaphysics, sacred geometry, you name it, ancient alien artifacts. I love studying everything I can get my hands on to further myself. But love is, at the end of the day, what got me back on my path that I left from the ashram days, if you want to call it that I had in my early childhood when I met my wife Marci 3.5 years ago, and we got together and looked across the table at dinner and saw in each other's eyes a reflection back of ourselves. That was that namaste moment, that the divine in me honors the divine in you. Well, I saw the divine in me looking back at the divine I am, and from that very moment, love entered my life, and love entered the picture in a way that was just quantum leaps above anything I could have dreamed, that could have made me change the next day to be a better person or back to my old self. So love for me, and through experiencing the love of my wife, is why I've been back in my very strong journey to explore being the best person I could be and share and spread as much love and light as I can through my business and through my life right now. So I guess at the end of the day, love sets you free, love shows you the way.
Beautiful.
It's true in my life, and I'm very fortunate to have a phenomenal wife and great children and a great family. And the more love that we spread as a couple, the more love and happy our family is, and the more we continue to act in that honor and integrity and in a state of love and that vibration, we keep seeing changes every day happen. What used to be for us coincidences the first year, we would say, oh, what a coincidence. We both have families with almost all the same names. Oh, what a coincidence, that we both look alike and we both like the same things. What a coincidence. We stopped that like 2-3 years ago, and then it became, well, of course, this is so synchronistic, it just makes sense. Everything synchronistically keeps flowing for us, and we'd see just a series of events happen in a way that would used to take years, but then take maybe weeks or a month. And now we say, because we seem to create together so powerful, my wife and I, we say, well, of course that happened. We put it out there a week ago, and of course we're living in the apartment of our dream, or we have this happen that we wanted to happen. We vibrate from that sense every day now as a couple: love, consciousness, respect, integrity, positivity, and for the greater good of everybody. And then we let go. And when we let go, it only takes a matter of time now before what we wanted originally, the belief, happens.
Yeah.
And it's proof.
Yeah. My next question along those 4 questions, you may have just answered it, but if you have anything more to add, is what are you doing differently?
In business or personal?
Well, since you're an integrated person, the combination.
Yeah, so that's a great question. I do a lot of things differently now, than I did a year ago or even 3 years ago. Because I constantly keep changing, I constantly keep evolving. So if you put yourself in that path that you don't know everything, when you want to experience everything, you're going to keep growing. So, I wake up before sunrise every morning, and I spend 20 minutes in a mantra, meditating. I'm studying with I guess I would say a teacher right now that's a master in Nada Yoga, so it's all about sound vibration. That's helped me tremendously. I used to basically stay up till 2 o'clock at night every night working. I'd put my kids to bed or go to bed with my wife, then wake back up and start working. And that was kind of a very dysfunctional situation the past few years. And I'd get up at like 8 in the morning and look back at only 5 hours of not great sleep. Now I go to bed by 10, 11 every night, and I get up before sunrise, and I set my internal clock to nature, the way it's been from tens of thousands of years for humans that have lived on Earth. So stuff like that. That's just one example. I took up yoga 8 months ago. I had before that been pretty heavily into martial arts for many years, and getting out of the, I want to say negative vibration, but the very hard vibration that martial arts keeps you in, and then giving that over to something more spiritual and soft and loving for the body, such as yoga, completely transformed my posture, transformed my thinking. I start to look at things differently. So I'm just using meditation and yoga as 2 examples. But even cleaning up eating is a big deal. When you go from eating regular flour to going gluten-free or wheat-free, you're going to see a difference. I'm seeing that now. That's a recent lifestyle change I made. My daughter just went vegan, and she's becoming inspired by her dad, which I'm psyched about. But yeah, these are things that I think that the more you seek out that's based on integrity and feels right and sounds truthful, the more you'll keep allowing yourself to grow. And then when you come into your job every day, you'll start to vibrate around all the people with that vibration. People will start to see that guy that came in the office that used to eat Whoppers every day, or used to watch sports all day and fights all day on TV, not that there's anything wrong with that, they talked and vibrated and were different than when they now change to do things more based on love and positive energy and spiritual mindset. You'll see a difference. And that one person will be the change that changes a whole office in time.
Yeah, yeah. And so my last question among this may also be a recap is, what are tools that you can recommend now that you've done it?
tools that the average.
Yeah. I mean, you've talked about yoga and kirtan, but just
Yeah.
to kind of recap, summarize, or
Yeah,
more.
I mean, look, thank God right now, as I said before, that the internet age is in full swing and most everybody has access to a computer. Because in a matter of seconds, you can go online and find a community that you can resonate with that will teach you or help guide you along a path to experiencing and exploring whatever that thing is that feels right to you. So like I said, whether it's meditation, whether it's yoga, whether it's art, whether it's Eastern spirituality, there's a number of things that right now, through some great companies that are leading the way like Gaiam and my company I Am, that we're trying to show the average everyday person that wants to learn about these things that can better themselves, their spiritual practice. They may be fed up with the old way of being religious. It may not make sense for them anymore. I mean, it can't make sense forever. You look at even the church has adapted over the past couple thousand years. We went from thinking that our sun was the center of the universe. That was a belief system that people got killed for and burned at the stake for. How absurd is that? The fact that we know right now we're nothing more than a little cluster of planets around a star and an arm that's way out in the suburb of the center of our spiral galaxy from the center. When you really put it in perspective, that's crazy that anybody would be killed over that. So the question is right now, how much do we still really know about who we are, what we are, why we're here, what our purpose is? Because again, each couple decades, we keep changing our thinking once things become revealed. So I wonder where we're going to be in 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now. We'll be a different human being. In 100 years, we're going to be a way different human being. In a couple hundred years, you'll look back on the days before 2012, a couple hundred years from now, and think it was the days of barbarians. That's what Cryon says. The days of barbarians, where people killed each other for religion, killed each other for money, where people enslaved children, where women have to walk around covering their entire body up, unless it's shameful. That is archaic. It's bizarre. And we'll see that someday when we look back. At this time, our children's children will think it was the days of barbarians.
Yeah, that's well put.
You look back at the medieval times, those were barbarians.
Right.
We are still coming out of that, though. That thinking, that male-dominated, left-brain thinking is completely not where the energy of Earth is right now. Where we are is we're resonating with a different vibration, one of divine feminine energy. That's where Earth is resonating now. We've crossed over kind of this galactic shift, this 20,006-year cycle. The Mayan calendars talked about it. Other calendars from other civilizations that studied the stars and had information have talked about it as well. We crossed over 1221, a very big time on Earth's vibrational life cycle. And we're in a time now where energy's different, time's moving faster, vibration's speeding up, everything's speeding up on Earth. Things are happening much quicker, whether it's wars or businesses, things are changing much quicker, and you're seeing more positive events happen. You're seeing, you look back at, the old days, 9/11 happened. The entire world tunes into that. The entire world feels that vibration, what they're watching on TV of the planes crashing into the Twin Towers. It is so debilitating and sad. But then you look at the 33 coal miners a few years ago that were all trapped in a mine, and they all survived. The whole world tuned into that. Just as many people, I saw the statistics, just as many people on TV tuned into that as they tuned into the World Trade Center. And so that outcome was one of positivity. They were saved. It was a loving message. It was a positive outcome. Everyone in the world felt good at that time. Everyone in the world, their hearts were beating, excited. They lived. More and more events you're going to see happen in the next few decades where what used to be a negative outcome, that everybody was in a vibrational state of, oh my God, despair, are going to be positive outcome of cheering and happiness. That's what you're going to start seeing more. That's going to be like the warning signs that we're on the right path. The more and more outcomes like that publicly, the more and more those warning signs, which are positive warning signs, are going to be available. And it just would be a matter of time.
Yeah, so that's a beautiful thing and a very beautiful portrait of where we're going, and gives and I believe that too, and I think gives a lot of people hope. We
survived the end of the world. Yeah. Make no mistake about it. Yeah. Every great prophet, every great seer, almost every great religious text, including the Bible and the Torah and everyone else, all predicted a major end to the world through World War III, whatever you want to call it, famine, pestilence, earthquakes, meteor showers. That was supposed to happen. That was the vibrational state that every early text taught was going to be the outcome. Because that was what the predictions were at the time. Because the vibration at the time of those scholars or those seers or those seekers or those channels that wrote those texts, they were speaking at the time with the vibration that they could foresee would happen if mankind was going to continue on that path. I mean, look, when the Bible was written, we knew what was going on in the world back then. People were getting killed all the time for their beliefs. So at the time, you can only predict that a couple thousand years from then, when you wrote those books, Armageddon was the only viable outcome. And that's true. But we survived it. 1221 happened. Major energy change happened on Earth. People are vibrating differently. We survived that reality. This is the paradigm shift we're in right now. We are at the very beginnings, the first 9 months into right now, of the new energy. 2013 is the pivotal year where the whole world is vibrating in a new energy. It's magnificent. This is like if you could be alive at any time on Earth, anytime, at least to me, this is where you want to be alive. This is where you want to be incarnated in a body, experiencing rapid change to a positive outcome. Because it used to take thousands of years, hundreds of years to see what's going on now. What's going on now happens in years, months, weeks, and minutes. And we're seeing it all over the place. It's not just me sitting here in my company that's only a couple years old and thriving. It's happening to other companies that I speak to, owners who have the same kind of observations about their businesses, and they're saying the same things. That old structures are going to replace the new structures. They're already being built. Old systems of banking are going to be replaced with new systems of banking, of different ways of lending money, of giving microcredits and giving help to people that are indigenous, of supporting the tribes that are making the clothing that we're wearing or growing the fruit that we're buying and consuming. It'll just be a matter of time, and that'll be the reality. We're already on the way. We already survived Armageddon.
Yeah. So Eric, what is next for you?
Keep growing, keep changing, keep exploring. I feel like a frontiersman. I'm very lucky that every day I get to be involved in businesses that are on the cutting edge of being righteous and changing and doing good. So it's my job as a founder and as a CEO for companies like MetaBrand and for IM to go out there and keep learning as much as I can, keep seeing what's going on, keep studying, keep exploring, and bring all that back to the company so the company can better from that and make better products and do more good and help more people. That's all it's about.
Yeah.
What else is it about?
Absolutely.
That's my role in the whole thing. Yeah. I've got a great role. I'm a facilitator and a creator of things that will hopefully make people healthier, happier, and live better. That's all.
Yeah. What more can you ask?
That's my legacy.
Yeah. So if people want more information about your work, your business, and any of that, how would they go about?
Sure. You'd go to either two websites for the two companies we talked about today. The IM company is www.think.com. So thinkim.com. And MetaBrand is www.meta, that's META, like metaphysics, brand, corp, corp.com.
Okay. So that's the best way.
Best ways for now, unless you want to get me on the phone, and I do try to take as many calls as I can when they come in. Yeah.
Great. All right. Well, I thank you very much, Eric, for taking the time.
Thank you.
Your busy schedule.
Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Right on.